Today on Paul's Old Crap, we're going to talk a little bit about the Higher Intellect Vintage Computing Wiki. Some of you might already be familiar with this site, but for those of you who are not, this is a vintage computer wiki, and it covers a number of different topics and stuff like that. And for those of you who are not aware, I actually run this. I started this wiki back in, I think, 2016, 2017. The original intention was to not actually have a vintage computer wiki. I was basically looking into having it more of a general wiki for content that was within my primary website. But there was a event that happened that made me want to basically turn this into like a computer wiki and stuff like that. And those include the one time I went to Wikipedia to make an edit to their page that talks about hotline communications. Now, Hotline is a peer-to-peer protocol that came out in the 90s, and Hotline Communications is the company that made it. And I've been using this software since the 90s, and I continue to run a Hotline server and tracker right up to this day. So, I mean, I think I have some authority on the subject of Hotline, and yeah, so I made a an improvement, like a very minor edit to the Wikipedia entry for Hotline, and it was immediately reverted with no reason. So I said to myself, "Oh, okay, if that's how you want to play it, I'll make my own damn wiki," and so I did. So I decided that everything I possibly knew about Hotline was going to be added into this wiki. So I went through my own giant text archive of everything I had, and I basically made all these articles. And basically, it's just like text file dumps and all that stuff, everything about Hotline, because I wanted to basically take all of the traffic that I could from Wikipedia related to Hotline and direct it to my own site here. So this was the first section that was made, basically all the Hotline information. Then something else happened. I don't remember exactly when it was. I think it might have been in 2018 or 2019. There's a website called Neko-chan. I actually have a page here about it. This was, I think, the largest SGI fan community. SGI being Silicon Graphics workstations and stuff like that. So this Neko-chan site, they had a wiki, they had forums, and yeah, basically a bunch of like SGI enthusiasts were all on the site. And one day, pretty much out of nowhere, the owner of the site took it down, and all of it was immediately offline. So for some reason, I decided that I would take it upon myself to dig through the entire Wayback Machine archive of the wiki that they ran on their site and integrate it into my site. So that basically built up this category here, all about Silicon Graphics. So I think pretty much almost every page that's in here is from that original wiki. There's a few things in here that I've added myself from other sources. I think I was digging through some old news groups or something like that, some archives of something. But yeah, pretty much everything in here is stuff that was originally written by members of the Neko-chan community. So mainly, I just didn't want that information to just disappear off the internet. So yeah, that's why I added it all here. And there are also other websites that are running now for members of that community and stuff like that. But yeah, I just mainly my goal is the preservation of knowledge. I don't want things to just kind of disappear, especially information that is still useful for a lot of people who are, SGI enthusiasts. So yeah, I basically added it all in here. And at that point, I pretty much decided that the wiki was going to become specifically a vintage computer wiki. Up until that point, there was like a few random articles that I kind of had in there, which is why there's like a section in here called government. So I was just kind of like dumping anything that might be interesting into the wiki. So there was like government information. I think there was like some alien and UFO conspiracy documents that I was adding in here. But then I decided that specifically it was going to focus only on vintage computing. And once I decided that, then I built up the main core areas. The Apple computer section is probably one of the largest sections on the site. And then from there, it also went to the Next computers, some microsystems. Also, getting into Microsoft, even though I'm not like a Microsoft fan. Um, I find Microsoft from the '90s to kind of be interesting, and then I've also got other specific categories made because I've got a lot of like Compaq uh, pages, and it's mostly like models of computers and stuff like that. So if you go through here, let's look up the Compaq ProLiant 5500 and basically just a little blurb about it. This particular server, though, is interesting because I had this model of computer where I started the entire Higher Intellect website on in 2001. So, yeah. But basically, I was just going on eBay and finding pictures of these models of computers and then making a wiki page for them. So some of these, there's really not that much information. It just says it's a PC from Compaq, and all of these photos were from like eBay auctions and stuff like that. So yeah, but some of these other pages, though, they do have a bit of information. I wonder if I've got, let's see here. So this is kind of a mix. So we've got photos from eBay auctions, but then we have a bunch of the jumper settings and stuff like that. This is from the Total Hardware 99 reference page stuff. If you search for like jumper settings on Google, typically you'll get some website. It's like stazon.org or something like that. His website is basically this information, this Total Hardware 99 thing that was released years ago. And I think the reason his site is always like the first result is he's had this information up the longest. And there's been a bunch of other sites that all mirror this information. But yeah, I've been slowly kind of putting this in the wiki as well. But it's a extremely tedious work. So yeah. But yeah, so I've been running this for a while. The original wiki idea was way back in like maybe 2010, but I didn't do anything with it. It wasn't until like 2016, 2017 with the whole my personal vendetta against Wikipedia. That's what kind of like spurred the advancement of this wiki. So uh yeah, there's just basically as much information as I could put in here, and it's an ongoing project. I do have multiple other wikis that I actually run, so this one isn't a huge focus at the moment. But you can actually register for an account and, make modifications and whatnot, but it is like it goes through a moderation process. So because it's typically only me who's looking at the edits, there is like a moderation period for any changes, and I fully expect that I'm going to be the one who's primarily doing all of the added like the additions and edits to this stuff. So, I'm not expecting people to want to sign up and spend a bunch of time working on this. This is kind of like my project that I took on myself just because I felt like it. So, but yeah, I plan on running this essentially forever. So, this site isn't going anywhere, and I hope it does, you know, become a decent reference for all of this vintage information because I have spent a lot of time archiving the most weird things, and a lot of it actually has to do with Apple Computer because I mean I'm an Apple fanboy. not gonna lie. So, like I've got everything I could possibly find. I've got my Copeland section here because I really find Copeland to be interesting. So, like, we've got all the inside Macintosh manuals that are specific to all the Copeland information. So, like, we can go into the microkernel and core system services. I've got the whole PDF embedded right in here. You can just read all you want about it. And yeah, basically other readmes, information here, articles. Let's see. I really have no idea where this came from. But yeah, just as much of information as I could possibly find, I tossed it in here, and it goes beyond that as well. So I've actually got commercials and marketing materials. So we like I've got like print ads that I downloaded from another website. I can't remember. I think it was like vintageapple.org or something like that. They had a bunch of these print ads. So I wanted to save all of this, and yep, got all that in there. And let me see here. I think I do. Yeah, I don't know why. Like these are really low resolution, so at some point I'll see if I can make these things actually show up larger. But um, I've got pretty much every Apple commercial that I could find easily up here, up to a point. I generally don't archive anything beyond like 2005 ish because that's kind of the cutoff for what I consider to be like a vintage computer sort of thing. But yeah, so yeah, I do have a lot of commercials and stuff like that. I've actually got if you go down to like the category of videos, um, these are all the things that are actual videos. So I've got like I got a Next Cube intro video from 1988. Probably has Steve Jobs in it. I don't know, maybe. But yeah, like a lot of these are commercials, Apple commercials, Power Mac ads, a lot of different things in here. And I think the site has grown to be fairly large. There's I don't know the exact number of pages, like actual content pages. It's easily over 50,000. But then we've got like pages that are like redirects or things like that. So yeah, I don't know the actual amount of pages that are relevant content, but there's quite a few. And like yeah, we go into stuff like IBM. Got a number of IBM systems in here. And not only hardware, if we hop over to like the general computing area, well, I might as well mention that we do have like 8-bit ISA cards, AGP cards, all these different categories for all this hardware. And then we start to get into things that are just like completely random. So I've actually got like the magazines area. So if you wanted to look up magazines from like let's see, Macworld, we've got, links to a bunch of archives of Macworld scans, I guess. And then I also went nuts and downloaded like cover images whenever I saw like eBay auctions or people posting images of Macworld magazine covers. So I've got all these galleries of covers because I mean I think this is neat information. It's not super important to archive, but if you're in love with like Macs from the 90s, which I kind of am, then you can look at this. And like for example, I literally owned a copy of this magazine and like this weird design um that someone came up with for like the next generation Mac. Like I remember going to a store and buying this Mac World, not the one that's physically in this picture. I don't think I still own it, but yeah. So I mean, this kind of takes me back to the '90s, where computing was still interesting. you know, in my opinion, anyway. But that's just kind of one example of all of this information that I've got like a category specifically of computing companies, and I started archiving the weirdest things like there was like this company fortunecity.com where you could get like free web hosting, and then from here you can go down the rabbit holes of going to GeoCities or Angel Fire, Tripod, Zoom. So I mean, like, it was just it was never ending. Like, I was spending so much of my time just archiving literally everything I could find about anything. And yeah, any company that had anything to do with computers is probably in here. I think I documented my old ISP from the 90s, which is this one, Internet Gateway Corporation. They were based in Vancouver, BC, which is where I was living the first time I accessed the internet. I think it was probably 1994 on a 486, and this was my ISP that my family had. So I documented for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Um, but yeah, there's like some obviously some large companies. So we've got like B in here. Um, AT&T, Asus, AST, and then we've got, let's see, hmm, there's just so much I can't even remember what some of these are. But then we've got like old computer stores that I remember from back in the day. Uh, Computer Clearance Warehouse. I don't think anyone who's watching this video is ever going to have heard of this place before. But it was just like this massive used computer store that was in Vancouver. And back in the 90s, I went there and bought like an Apple II GS for $5. So, stuff like that, that just kind of like, I remember these things and it's kind of like locked away in my memory, and I document it while I can still remember some of these details. So, yeah, there's just so much of that. And let's see. Yeah, we've just got like various types of documentation, troubleshooting documents, all these different hardware archives, PCI cards. I started making a section for manuals. So there's like a lot of IBM manuals in here, Apple documentation, stuff like that. Um, Various manuals on anything, Motorola 68040 processor information. Um, yeah, this section is not even actually as big as it could be. I have a lot more to add here. Like, it's also got the sub section here, Sun manual. There's over 600 Sun manuals in here. So yeah, like, there's just so much content in here. So I figured I would just kind of like make a video about this. The site does get a fair amount of traffic already, but you know, just in case you were looking for a vintage computer wiki, um, I think a lot of my pages do rank pretty decently on search engines when you search for things. So I get a lot of traffic that way. But yeah, I will eventually do a lot more work on this. I've been basically re-engineering more of my main website, which is just preterhuman.net, and it's called Higher Intellect. It's kind of like an ebook text file website. So the computer wiki is just kind of like a small section of that entire website. So, but yeah, I think I covered everything I kind of wanted to mention about this. Yeah, so I've got you will find a lot of just absolutely random information in here as well. So places and events, I think I've covered a few things. Like, I got some like Comdex information in here, and what else do we have? Some different expos. I got Expo 86, which was in Vancouver, and I was actually there, although I was 3 years old, so I didn't really know what was going on. So, it's technically a vintage computer wiki, but I also have just some of the more random things in here. Anything that's vintage kind of made its way in here as well. And also just anything computer related as well. I think this one is one of my favorite entries. Uh, this guy named Tim Meehan went to the Antarctic, and he took a Mac PowerBook and a what's that camera called? The Quick Take camera. So he's got his PowerBook 500 series, I think, and a quick take camera, and it was some sort of like Apple sponsored trip. And Apple actually had this whole trip journal hosted, and I dug it up on archive.org, and I went through the effort of completely putting it into this wiki page for absolutely no reason whatsoever. The fact that it was related to Apple is the only reason I did it. But I actually found the whole thing to be rather interesting as I was doing it. So, he's got all these pictures that he took on the way and describing like the network in whatever base, like McMurdo, I think is the name of the base that he went to, and talking about like a Macintosh Quadra 950 was running as the server and stuff like that. But yeah, like pictures of animals and stuff, all taken with the Apple QuickTake camera. And then he had his PowerBook that he uploaded those to while, I guess, out and about and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I actually really enjoyed um, getting this article made up with all of this information, because otherwise, with now that this is pretty much off of the public internet, and you would only find it if you knew the old URL to look up in the archive.org site. Without any of that, who would see that this existed, right? So yeah, and that just took me down the rabbit hole of the Apple Solution Professionals Network. So that was yet another random division of Apple that I had to document, because once I start, I can't stop. So yeah, there's just so much information. Like, I could probably talk for hours about the random stuff that I've added in here. But yeah, if any you can't talk. If any of you want to check this out, the address is wiki.preterhuman.net, and I'll put a link in the description as well, right to it. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not expecting anything from this. I just want you guys to be aware that this is a resource that I've created for the benefit of all of you. So if this is something that interests you, feel free to check it out. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching.